Oh boy. Hello, everyone. Welcome. How are you all? We are so happy to see you. And look who is here, Mr. Hogarth from Global Astrology. Hi, Hogarth.
Hello, Jen, and thank you so much for having me on the show. And if there's a little echo to my voice, everyone, if you can hear it or not, Jen's had some technical issues where she's been hacked and attacked, and she's on a Chromebook and trying to make the best of it. Bless you. I really hope it all works out.
Oh, thank you, Hogarth. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's working out. Everybody here in my gang is very supportive. I've had lots of help come through, so it's all right. We'll be okay. But anyway, everyone, welcome. And so we're just going to chit chat about some spiritual stuff, Vedic astrology stuff. Um, and then maybe get to some political reflections. But
Mhm.
my curiosity is, Hogarth, about these coronal flares that we're having. Apparently, there's a big old hole in the sun, and it is just sending all kinds of radiation our way, even
Mm.
more so than what we normally experience. And I was wondering if that is affecting us astrologically. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure it is, but how would it be?
Well, I would say almost certainly. As you know, I'm a big geek of Neo-Vedic astrology, but genuine astronomy as well. I'm always paying attention to what's going on with the planets, um, things going on in the celestial skies. I actually remember back in November, I made a prediction. This is November 2022, going into before we went into this year. And I was talking about the transits of Saturn, and I also mentioned Betelgeuse.
Okay.
Now, today, Betelgeuse, at some point, it's happened, or it may have happened already, or is about to happen, is going to be occulted, which means obscured, by asteroid Leona. The odds of this happening are infinitesimal. It's once in a lifetime type of thing. And I said we'd be talking about the skies, the things going on. We've been talking about aliens, etc. And now we've got this phenomena with Betelgeuse. I discussed it on my channel, but we could see real revelations into things to governments, institutions, all of this stuff. On top of that, of course, we have what you were talking about with the sun. This is quite rare. I mean, if anyone's seen the pictures, it looks like, have you seen, Jen? It looks like the sun has had holes ripped in it.
Yes, yeah, it
It's
looks exactly like that. And Zendal here is saying there isn't a hole in the sun. Hello, Zendal one. There isn't a hole in the sun. They said it
no,
really isn't a hole. It is something that happens on the sun. So,
indeed. So what
yeah.
from what I understand is it's not a literal hole, but it is a part of the sun where it looks darker. And it has a lot to do with the coronal mass ejections and stuff like that. But out of these darker spots come very strong solar winds. So we're going to have extra strong solar winds and stuff coming our way, which could affect electricity, satellites, etc. But I think this could also be big downloads for people as well.
Yes, that's what I get as well. It's picked up the frequency of our ability to attract frequency, pick up frequency, is what my guides say. So
Mm.
I'm noticing that in myself. I'm noticing it in the readings that I'm doing. Folks are just really much more aware, receptive. They are, receiving downloads. And so I was just wondering how that was affecting the planets and that energy. But I had a reading, you
Mm.
guys, with Hogarth, and
I think it's
it was
affecting
fabulous.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Am I lagging?
Yeah, there might be a lag, but I heard you say you were just going to say you had a reading with me and then it cut out. So maybe you just repeat that bit.
Okay. Yeah. See, it's the solar flares. But yes, I had a reading with Hogarth, you guys, and it's wonderful. I highly recommend it if you haven't had one with Hogarth. Yes, I highly recommend it. It was fascinating. Hogarth has this ability to, I'm not sure if that is all Vedic astrology because I am still just a puppy when it comes to astrology, but he has this ability to read the energy, to kind of see the whole person. And Hogarth is that Vedic astrology, really taking in the energy. I know that it's the energy of the planets, where all of this frequency of stone is in the universe when you're born, that pulls on you. But is that Vedic astrology that really describes the energy of a person, um, describes who they are, what the possibilities are?
Yeah,
Can
I
you?
would say, I mean, part of it is with my consultations is part of my sort of like psychic gifts and stuff like that as well, which I don't make a big deal about, as you know. I kind of really I save it for my clients and my consultations and stuff like that. But Vedic astrology really does give a framework to identify and give language and voice to these kind of universal principles and energies. And it really is about the stars. Vedic astrology is sidereal, and that means it follows the slow movement of the stars, which is called the precession of the equinoxes. Now, that because the stars are actually moving backwards slowly by 1 degree every 72 years or so. Western tropical astrology doesn't take that movement into account. Now, anyone who's a Western astrologer, if they're talented and good, of course they can still do astrology. But this is one of the main reasons why people don't believe astrology is real. Because from the Western point, we are out of whack with the stars. So many people who are told that they are Aries, they're actually Pisces.
Ah,
Many people that are told they are Pisces are actually Aquarius. Many that are told that Aquarius are Capricorn because the stars have moved backwards by almost one whole sign.
wow.
So once I actually start reading and consulting with a client, and I'm reading them from the correct position, then it is profound. And these stars have concrete meanings, and they're in nakshatras, and they have deities, narratives, stories, symbolism, which plays out in everyone's life.
Fantastic. So, when you are working with a client, do you feel like um, you are kind of channeling the deity or the energy of a specific star, place, planet?
Do you know what? Sometimes I do. It depends. It depends on the client. So one of the things that I've had to learn to do as an astrologer is that I have to unite both sides of my brain. The left-hand side of the brain, of course, is associated with logic, reasoning, problem solving, the conscious mind as we would recognize it. It's the more masculine side of the brain. But then I have to use the right side of my brain for my intuition, the hits, the connection with the divine and the beyond, and blend the two together. So all my clients will get that blend. And then for some of my clients, some of the planets will literally come through with a message to let them know something or clarify some important thing in their life. And it could be any planet depending on who the client is. Sometimes, like, there was one time I was talking about planet Mars with a client. And Mars, of course, is the planet of war and conflict, but also logic and problem solving. Different planets have different symbolism. As I was speaking to her, a red admiral appeared at her windowsill. Now remember, the color red is associated with Mars, and it was an admiral, which is what? Part of a martial aspect. And it was an important message I was telling her about artwork. I've had Neptune come through, Saturn, the sun, it could be anything.
Uh-huh. Wow. That's amazing. Chris says, is that why when you're on the cusp, you don't feel you're all in one sign versus the other, but blended is the question? Is that why when you're on the cusp, you don't feel you are all in one sign versus the other, but blended?
It's true. There can be a blendedness. But say, for example, Western astrology, if you're on the cusp, you're in Vedic astrology, you're not on the cusp because you take off 24 degrees. You move it backwards.
Okay.
So those who are on the cusp are actually in the full aspect of the sign before. However, when I do my charts for with using Vedic astrology for my clients, if their ascendant is very late and on the cusp, according to Vedic astrology, then they will be blended. And likewise with the sun sign position as well. So it's true, but it may be feeling blended in a way that you don't expect.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Excellent. So tell me about Mercury. Tell us about Mercury.
What would you like to know?
Mercury. The energy of Mercury. What is it like for you when you're reading? What is the energy like?
Oh, Mercury is an incredible planet. Very underrated. Most people are familiar with Mercury because of the Mercury retrogrades, and that's all they know about the planet, pretty much.
Yeah.
But he's so much more than that. Mercury is our ability to discern. A strong Mercury is a blessing because it gives a person the faculties to accurately categorize, identify, describe, share, observe, and decipher all types of information. So the moon, for example, represents the mind overall, our consciousness, our childhood, our past, our mother. But the moon is like the clock face. Mercury is like the mechanism of the mind. So when a person has a strong Mercury, it can make them very articulate. It gives them the ability to assimilate and disseminate information with ease. Mercury is the planet of communication of all kinds, writing, podcasting, any kind of information, data. He is also the planet of currency, commerce, business, any kind of useful information and skill. However, Mercury is also a fickle planet. When he's strong and in good dignity, he will bring forward his virtues, but Mercury is also the trickster, the con man, the swindler. Yeah.
Really?
A certain Duck Larange, or Trump,
Yes.
yeah, his Mercury is in Gemini, which is its own sign. Everyone thinks he's a Gemini sun sign. He isn't. He's on the last day of Taurus.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you think of a shadow of Taurus, can be what? Excessive materialism, placing objects above people. Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
his Mercury sits in Gemini. Have you noticed all of what his Truth Social, his constant need to communicate?
Yes.
So anyone who's got Mercury in Gemini, or their moon in Gemini, or planets in Gemini, will have communicative ability, but in the case of Duc Larange, he uses the shadow of Mercury to swindle and deceive.
And that's because of Taurus.
No, his, because like we're so programmed into Western astrology, it's very hard for people to unthink what they've learned already.
Yes.
So everyone goes, Trump is a Gemini, and they always remind me, as if the sun sign is the only thing that's the most important thing. You have to look at the whole chart. When you take the 20, so if I start here, when you take the 24 degrees off backwards of his sun sign in Western tropical, he's the last day of Taurus.
Okay.
That's his sun sign. But
Okay.
that's only one aspect of the chart. His Mercury is in the sign of sidereal Gemini, which makes someone an extreme communicator and talker. This is why he can't shut up to save his own life. You see, it starts to make sense, doesn't it?
Yes. Wow. Very much so.
Oh, and someone's saying, High Pin City saying he's a bull in a china shop. Yes, he is stubborn. Yeah, what's the shadow of Taurus? Stubbornness, not wanting to move. Yeah,
Right. But when he does move, he just crashes into everything and just makes noise and
right. Yeah,
chaos, right?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Fascinating. I see you guys. Hogarth does have an echo, and it's my equipment, and I apologize for that. We're getting it worked out over here, but we're aware of it, and it's kind of the best that it can be at this particular moment. So I apologize for that.
Sorry,
Thank you,
sorry.
Jo. Appreciate it. All right. So, hey, paradigm shift. Mercury retrograde begins this week. Is that correct? And currently in Western Capricorn and traveling back to Western Sagittarius while squaring Neptune. This is a big funny trick at the end of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, Mercury retrograde will start this week. I normally make a note. I think it is it the 17th. Forgive me. Um, so even though the signs are in different places versus Vedic and Western, however, the distance between the planets is still the same. So that starting point of the retrograde for us in Vedic astrology is 24 degrees back from the Western position. But
Yes.
Mercury will go retrograde at the same time. Yeah, we'll go retrograde at the same time, just probably in different signs.
Yeah. Hmm. So, does it have the same in Vedic astrology as in Western? I mean, everybody says, "Oh, we're in retrograde. It's retrograde." Is it the same? And how can handle that hiccup?
Well, it's very similar because a Mercury retrograde is a Mercury retrograde. However, in Vedic astrology, retrograde planets are considered more powerful because they're closer to the Earth. So in Vedic astrology, it's not seen so much as a negative. However, in the chart, retrograde planets have more karma on them. That's what I found. You have to squeeze harder to get the juice out of the planet.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I like that. Get the juice out of the plant.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And whatever it represents as well. So Mercury also represents friends. Mercury represents young people or young persons that are yet to reach the age of puberty. So that would be maybe up to age 12 and below. The planets have so many characteristics. What else would you like to know about Mercury?
Oh, just I guess just how it affects the energy, I don't know. I dream a lot about Mercury for some reason. And I dream um it's kind of like this small, fast, energetic planet. And yeah.
Yeah. Someone's again talking about the echo. Sorry, guys. Jen's computers and stuff got hacked, and there's just this echo, and we can't get rid of it. Sorry about that.
Do you hear it, Hogarth?
Well, I mean, I can hear it, and people are saying in the comments they can hear it as well.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. It's folks on your side that are, um, it's interesting because they're on your channel. I see the keychain. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to do. So I'm very sorry about that. So, all right. Should we switch gears to politics?
If you like, yeah. If you've got any questions about the planets, just let me know. Just let me know because they all mean different things. Like Jupiter represents a person's husband, for example, or the
Oh,
significant one in their life. Yeah,
really?
yeah. I kid you not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about Saturn then.
Oh, Saturn. Okay. Wherever Saturn is in the chart and wherever he's transiting, he will show you where effort and graft and discipline must be applied. I found Saturn's movements to be so profound that as long as I've got the ascendant and I can see where Saturn is transiting in the chart, that will show me the emphasis of that whole person's life for that entire transit. It's
Hmm.
incredible. It's just incredible. So Saturn is the gravitas planet in terms of application, discipline, what you're going to have to work on for 2.5 years slash 3 years while he's transiting a house. And it really does take that long. And then when he's about to leave a house, he has what I call the mule kick. And he goes, kicks you in the face just to make sure you've learnt the lesson of the previous 3 years. And then he moves to the next place.
I
Really
love
does.
it. Yeah. So, when did you become interested in astrology?
Well, I've been interested in astrology since I was 8 years old, genuinely. And it became a very useful tool because my mother, sadly, when I was growing up, she really struggled with her mental health, had huge mental health issues. And I think we discussed that, didn't we, when we were talking and about our
Mm-hmm.
lives, these things.
Right.
But astrology became a great comfort for me because it talks so much about psychology. So I started with the Greek myths and legends, started with my mother actually. She gave me a book to all of the mythology, and then I was like, oh, they're planets. The planets are named after gods. The gods
Mm-hmm.
are the planets. And then once I understood that, and I was learning astronomy at the same time, it all coalesced in my mind. And then Vedic astrology came along, which was like the next level up from that.
Hmm. So, when did you get really into it, like the Vedic?
I would say it's probably about 5 years ago now. I was already aware of it, but my intro was actually Vedic numerology
Ah, okay.
because I've studied all the audiologies, the psychology, graphology, obviously, handwriting, all of the different aspects of psychology, Jung, Freud, the hero's journey, so on and so forth, the hero with 1,000 faces, all of the Greek mythology. So I already had a very good grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, with just a set of circumstances and events too long to go into, that's really was my break-in moment to Vedic astrology, which was really brought about by Uranus, by the way.
Why Uranus? Or how?
Uranus is the planet of sudden shocks and surprises. Yeah. And as the great liberator, great awakener.
Uh-huh.
He's also a planet of astrology. And basically, long story short, I had these crazy neighbors that used to live below me, and I was actually attacked by these neighbors at one point. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
this is really juicy. Some people on my channel may not know this. And, it started, believe it or not, it started with a tarot reading. All right. A digression here, folks. I'm having a leaner digression, as it were.
Okay.
One time in a previous life when I used to manage conferences and events and concerts,
Okay.
we were doing tarot at work.
Okay.
There was a girl who was just learning tarot for the first time, and we were reading for each other, and we were having just a good time. Because I would always bring these esoteric things to my staff whenever I was managing, and they love it. Anyway, she read some cards to me, and they were dreadful. I mean, they were really bad. And I was like, oh, God, this is not good. So 4 a.m., I'm at home. And I was just like, I need to read some cards for myself because what she pulled for me was just awful.
Right.
Anyway, I pulled the cards and I looked down, and they were just as dreadful as her cards were. And I kind of, when I looked at the cards, it read, because I remember, I'll never forget, one of the cards was the Knight of Swords, the one charging forward, with his blade
Yeah.
aloft.
Right. True.
And I
Yeah.
just got this psychic hit which said, imminent attack. And as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I heard a kerfuffle and a commotion downstairs. I thought one of my neighbors was being attacked because it was a male and female couple, and they were these drunk and drug addicted people. Huge problems. She starts banging on my door, and I just thought, oh my God, she's being attacked. Now, my concern overrided my gut instinct. Anyway, I opened the door, and she was standing there with a plank of wood. Thankfully, it wasn't too thick. She started attacking me. Yeah. Anyway,
Seriously.
yeah. I kid you not. I kid you not.
Huh.
And I was attacked in my flat, and it was all drama. I managed to kind of get them out and all of this kind of stuff. And I had to leave my flat for 3 months. But what people don't know is, or what I didn't realize at the time, I had just began my Uranus opposition, which happens in the late 30s, early 40s.
Mm.
And Uranus is the planet of shocks, surprises, and lightning. Unexpected events which can be traumatic but can also liberate. Within the first few days after I'd left my flat, I realized it wasn't about me at all, and it was about me helping other people, etc. And that, I can say, truly was my full initiation into Vedic astrology, and my life has not been the same since. So believe it or not, I mean, it's not like I was beaten black and blue or anything. They were drug addled and sort of out of it. But the point was, it was the shake-up
Right.
that led to this next revelation. And for me, I've got Uranus in the fourth house. And the fourth house deals with home and real estate.
Mm.
So once Uranus came at that halfway point, he just threw his electricity down to my fourth house. I got that attack. But then I got my initiation into Vedic astrology. So I don't regret it at all. I really don't. I actually see it now as a blessing. It was
Right.
just a horrible one.
Right. Horrible blessing.
Horrible blessing, yeah.
I love it.
That's your
So, the Saturn return that happens with folks usually around what ages? Or is it a specific age? Is it a specific time when Saturn returns?
Yes. Yeah, it is. So
Okay.
it's to do with the cycle of the planets around the sun.
Right.
So we get our first Saturn return around about 28, 29. By 30, it has definitely started. So as you know, I meditate, on the planets. I mean, they're like family. Honestly, they're like family for me. I talk with them every day, especially Saturn. And I was meditating probably a couple of years ago on Saturn and asking him about his temperament and all of that stuff. And then he just came out with the most profound statement. He doesn't say much, but his words are concise but very deep. And I was thinking about the maturation process. And then he just drops into my mind and he says, childhood ends when I return. So what that means is we are children until we are 29.
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree.
Think
Yeah.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
And then 28 years later, so 56, 57.
Yeah. When we get into that later point, guess what? Another aspect of childhood goes again. Because with most people who have parents that live to the mean average, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which, believe it or not, is also associated with Uranus, because Uranus takes 84 years to orbit the sun.
Okay.
And when you think about it, a lot of people tend to go in their 80s, don't they?
Yes.
So, assuming that your parents lived to the mean average of the early 80s, by the time your second Saturn return comes round, another layer of childhood is gone. Why? Because your parents, if they're still alive, will enter their second childhood, where you're either having to look after them, they could have serious issues with either dementia, maybe some serious health implications, or they need to go into a care home, or they're moving in with you, or something like that. Particularly if it also coincides with Saturn crossing over the moon, which deals with the mother and the family. So very often, my clients, particularly when they're on the cusp of 60, is
Yes.
when they often have, particularly for women,
Yes.
this is one of the most crucial times in a woman's life
Mm-hmm.
before she's about to turn 60. And I
Right.
call it the age of wisdom.
Mm.
This is when a lot of women actually come into their full power.
I
Takes a
agree.
while, but let me tell you, I've just seen it again and
And
again
again.
and
And
again.
again. Mm-hmm.
And it can be a difficult time because one may be dealing with parents or a spouse who's ailing.
Yes.
But when they come through this period, this is very often a time I see women in particular come into their full spiritual blossoming. And if they use that time and if they embrace what has been called what is now known as a dirty word, yeah, the crone,
Uh-huh.
think
Right.
how
I
that
think
can
it's
use
beautiful.
against you. It is beautiful.
Yes.
The crone is fabulous.
Yes.
But its society needs to change because it's also an age very often where women are starting to feel invisible.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's not their fault, that's society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yes.
that's old Kali Yuga thinking and the old patriarchal whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
This, the ancients would understand this is a time in a woman's life where she was supposed to leave her family. and go off into the wilderness or with other women and have this spiritual moment. And the husbands would understand. They'll be like, she's in her goddess phase.
Right.
So
Beautiful.
very often women, when they reach this age, they want to leave it all behind. They really do, because the spiritual calling that Saturn brings at this time can be so profound, they just want to drop everything. And they probably
Awesome.
should, but it's, you know, it's hard to kind of just let everyone go. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But anyway,
Yeah.
how does that resonate with you? You know, you were nodding.
Oh, yes. I'm 57. And yeah, about 5 years ago, everything really changed for me. And then 3 years ago is when I started all of this. You know, I've
Yeah,
had these gifts since I was a child and they came through, but I was in a completely different career, place, phase. Seriously, Hogarth, it was like I woke up one morning and bam, I was on the people mover of change. I couldn't stop. It was like this energy was just driving me, you know, up at 3,
yeah,
channeling my star seed downloads, right? Into soul contracts and, you know, teaching about it. And now I'm writing a book about it, you know, crystals, the frequency of stone,
yeah,
right? Helping people,
yeah,
classes, just like this real urge to, I mean, I can't stop.
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, yeah. It's vintage Saturn. Because what he does is with his movements and his energy, even though he's a slow moving planet, he gives a sense of urgency when he starts to come round. So look, when we think 29, yeah, what's the classic? What am I going to do? Am I going to get married? Will I have a career? Will I have children? Shall I buy a car? Am I going to stay in this country? Am I going to be with this person? Am I going to be with that person? When will I grow up? What career will I have? That's the first Saturn return. We know it so well, it may as well be a law of physics. The
Right.
second Saturn return is what you're going through now. This
Yes.
is where we feel that push to what impact am I going to make? What will I leave behind me? Because when we're approaching that 60-year point, we're looking back and we realize we might have more years behind us than we have in front of us. Yeah.
Right.
Saturn is the planet of reality. So we go, oh, I need to sort myself out. Yeah. So we actually start going up to that next level, and it can feel like this relentless push because Saturn is the planet of time.
Mm.
He says to us, this is how much time you have. You
Right.
use it as well as you can. And when it's time for me to reap the harvest of your life, I will come. Yeah. That's why people in their 90s are very sanguine about death because they're having their third Saturn return. So by then they're like, take me, I'm ready to go. Yeah, because you know that they've lived their life hopefully to the full. So
Right.
anything, I would say any years you get after 84 are a bonus. If you can survive your first Uranus return, well done. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I love it. I love it. I could just ask you tons of questions all day.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
It's
One thing I'll
wonderful.
quickly add, because I know
Yes.
we want to get a little bit of politics in.
Right.
Planet Pluto, as you know, moves very slowly.
Yes.
It takes him 244 years to return to
Oh.
himself.
Yeah.
None of us, unless we're cryogenically frozen or get our lives very extended, will ever see a Pluto return in our chart.
Mm.
However, when it comes to the level of countries, I see the Pluto return like the
Oh.
first Saturn return that we have personally.
Okay.
You know how the first Saturn return, we have to grow up? So remember I
Yes.
said childhood ends, well, Saturn said childhood ends when I return.
Yeah.
When a nation has its first Pluto return, that is also another time when childhood or naivety has to end. And we all know what's happening in the USH chart, don't we?
Yes.
You guys are having your first Pluto return, and it becomes exact March, April 2024. And it's also going to coincide with those big eclipses that have been happening.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it was in November, one went through
Mm-hmm.
Texas. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
look what's coming out about Texas. We're going to talk about that. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? The one on the 8th of April
April.
2024
Right.
crosses through
Through
Texas
Texas.
again.
Yeah.
X marks the
Marks
spot.
the spot. Woo.
So watch out for that in the politics. It's already exposing itself already. But there we are. What would you like to ask next? Should we be
So,
politics?
okay, one more question about Pluto.
Sure.
You said 244 years. So we can see it in countries,
Hmm.
right? The evolution or
Yeah.
that one rotation. What do we
Hmm.
see? What what will we see?
What, in terms of the USA?
No, countries. Okay.
Ah,
Okay, one thing. Kind of a rabbit hole. But I watched year after year or years for years. It's on HBO Max and it was about the UK and Miss Rook. Have you seen that show? It's a
no.
6-part series, and it's about she was a third party candidate, ran as prime minister, won. She was conservative. It was very Trump like, but it just showed me that it's not just in the United
No.
States that all of this conservative, crazy, right wing, strange stuff is happening. It's all over the world. It's an excellent, excellent show. I binge
Yeah.
watched it. I couldn't stop. I,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because with the outer planets, they have their relationships to each other as well. So Pluto will have his relationships with Saturn. Pluto will have his relationships with Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus. And those conjunctions, oppositions, and squares will be key and critical to the development of nations around the world.
Right.
But to put into perspective, we need to remember how old the UK is as a concept. So, to give you an idea, Westminster Abbey has stood for 1,000 years, right? Still looks pristine, yeah? They knew how to build buildings back then. So that
Mm-hmm.
means since that building was built, the UK has had 4 Pluto returns because each one lasts,
It's
it
like
happens about
244.
250 years. Yeah,
Right.
244, 50 years. So we've had
Right.
at least 4. So we've had the civil wars, we've had the battles with France, Europe, we've had fiefdoms, we've had plutocrats or plutocracy, which is what we're seeing now. So this Pluto influence going through sidereal Capricorn, which is what? A sign of governments,
Mm.
big business,
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure, any big kind of company. What do we see around the world? We see plutocrats, plutocracy.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the profits that these huge companies make with hardly paying any tax.
Right.
Look at the world, how we see this kind of shift to the right. Have you noticed? Because Pluto, his shadow, can deal with fascism.
Ah, yeah.
In another thing that's really important, in 2020, no, in 2030, a very important birthday happens. It will be 100 years since the discovery of Pluto in our modern consciousness.
Mm.
Pluto was discovered what? In 1930.
1930. Right.
So
Mm.
it, as an astrologer, I'm looking at those bigger cycles as well. Even actually, I look at cycles of 24,000 years. That's actually part of my practice. You know, where there's a concept called the yugas, too long to explain, but we're coming out of the Iron Age, and we're just moving into the age of energy and technology and
Mm-hmm.
magic, which is also coming back.
No. Beautiful. Love it. Oh, and ding. Um, all right. So should we read on some of these
Sure.
politics? Are we discussing or are we reading?
Well, I've got my tarot cards, so we can discuss and read.
Okay.
And I thought we could look at Navalny.
Okay. Where is he?
Well,
Yeah, he's been moved. And he's not well. They're hiding him because he's not
yeah,
well.
yeah. Someone's saying here, Kelly's saying I'm down for some magic. And then Hypnicity said, but then they demoted Pluto, which was a mistake, by the way. He's not pleased with that.
Oh, from being a planet to
Yeah, livid, livid.
yeah.
he's still bitter about it, honestly. Pluto is so powerful and,
Right.
demoted to dwarf planet as if he was some insignificance. Look at the
Significant.
power. Look what he's showing in the world. Oh
Oh
my God.
yeah.
Pluto energy is
It's like
hardcore. Yeah, sorry.
he shows us the possibility of who we can be through our
Oh,
choice.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The most transformative. I would say anyone that masters their Pluto, superpowers, really.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he's
Oh, love
incredible.
that, Hogarth. That's so cool. All right, so we're gonna switch gears and look at Navalny.
Yeah. I did a video on him, by the way, a couple of years ago, which I need to rewatch, where what's happened to him, basically I predicted, and I think the outcome will also come true, sadly. But let's see what we get in the cards.
Hmm. Yeah.
What cards will you be using, Jen?
The Radiant Wilds Atlas. I love these cards.
Wow, beautiful illustrations.
Yeah, they're very Southwest. Now that I've moved to New Mexico from Seattle in my Saturn return, leaving it all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Moved to the Southwest. Very
And
cool.
up a mountain, aren't you? You're also up a mountain, aren't you?
Yes, sir. So, like you said, I came down the mountain. Do you know what Costco is, Hogarth?
Yeah, I've heard of Costco. Yeah. It's where you go
It's like
shopping for bits and bobs, isn't it?
it's like its own consciousness in the American society. It's this ginormous place, and you can buy like
Both, isn't it?
liters and liters of mayonnaise, for $5. But so I went there just to be with people. I mean, where else could I be with people and touch everything, and just walk around and enjoy the Christmas area. So it was good. I did. I had several bookings when I got outside to my car. I laughed so hard.
It
And
was
that's
so funny, wasn't it? Because I basically, guys, like in my consultation with Jen, we were talking about different things, and like the planets will communicate with me or give me images. And I was shown these images of javelins hitting a mountain and not being able to kind of reach where she was. And I said to her, look, Jen, you are so high up on your mountain that your clients can't reach you psychically. I said, you need to kind of maybe come down a few levels and then they'll be able to reconnect with you. And
and look what happened. It was
there
so
you go.
great. So I do that now. I make an effort to go to town.
Go to town literally and be with people. Mountains are very exalted places, you know, very
Oh, I
exalted.
love it here. I
And it's
love it,
Saturn
love
as
it.
well.
Wow.
So
So
who
what's
should
going
who should
on?
go first for the read? It's up to
All
you.
right. You go ahead, sir. You're my
You
guest.
sure? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, please.
So with Navalny now, I'm using the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot deck. I adore this deck. Now, with this deck, I go through and I straighten up the cards. And for Navalny, there is a reversal already. So if we look here, what do I get? I've got the Fool reversed.
Mm.
Now, when the card is the right way up, this can be about a leap of faith, having trust in the universe and stuff like that. Simple interpretation. But when the card is reversed, it can mean literal foolishness. In the video I made 2 years ago, I was actually a bit critical of Navalny because I said him voluntarily returning to Russia was a big mistake and exceedingly naive. I've got many names for Putin, but one of them I also call him is the Black Widow.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
He's not someone that you cross.
Right.
Once he landed on Russian soil, he was done for.
Mm.
Remember, they poisoned his underpants. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then he still went back, you know, for more because of his sense of being the hero. Anyway, I'll put a link somewhere and people can watch the video. But look, it was reckless. Yeah.
Mm.
If we look here in the obstacle position in this 5-card spread, it is the 4 of Wands. And this can deal with what? Security, reaching a milestone, happiness. But it's in the obstacle position, so really it's reversed. And we can describe this as what? The opposite. The milestones that he's reached have been the years that Putin has piled on to his sentences. This isn't a home, it's a prison. It's the gulag.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. That's what this is really what this is representing for Navalny, the opposite of comfort and happiness. He's cold, starved, practically poisoned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll tell you something funny. Whenever I'm talking about Putin, usually I get a feminine card for him. Yeah.
Mm.
Not
Yeah,
because
me
he's
too.
effeminate, yeah, but his
I know.
means, yeah. Yeah.
There she is.
Queen of
The
Wands.
Empress. Oh.
Well, I always get the Empress for him as well,
Yeah.
because he really wishes he was Catherine the Great. But anyway, that's a different debate. But look, I always get a feminine card for him. Here he is.
Right. Yeah.
Putin has been biding his time. The Queen of Wands is about bringing people together in a social sense, orchestrating things, being the center of attention, but also using intuition. A certain Vladimir Putin has elections coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
He's wanted a certain someone to be out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
emphasized by this card here, which is the 8 of Cups, leaving something behind. This is, of course, not Navalny voluntarily wanting to do this. This is him being maybe potentially removed out of the picture as
Right.
Putin moves on. He
Right.
knows the rest of the world is not paying much attention. I knew he would wait until this time to get rid of Navalny.
Navalny, yeah, that's what I've got here too. Mm.
And if we look here, the outcome card, if Navalny is still alive for entertainment purposes only, if, and that's a big if. But at the end of the day, this is Putin here juggling the situation. He knows he cannot have Navalny be a factor in these elections and therefore is juggling everything. There you are.
Yeah.
That's my read.
Oh, yeah. Wow, Hogarth. Whew. All right, so my signifier is the 8. It's the 8 of Pentacles. See, I'm feeling the same. So when I read my cards, it's like I get a movie and then Pink steps in my guide and I get like this picture of him and it's like he's letting go of the past, you guys. This is for entertainment purposes only, but
Mhm.
letting go of the past. And he's evolving into calmer waters in his soul. You know, he feels this self mastery and harmony now. It's
Mhm.
like he's resigned to it. You know, 8 of Pentacles is you build, you build, you build your life, right? Save,
Mhm.
plan your future. He's done that. But he's like in this place now of resignation. And it's almost like celebration.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I get the same
fascinating
feel.
because he's got this excitement, like a pep
Peace
in his
almost.
step. He's been moved and he's ill. And yes, this is the beginning of they want Putin wants to get rid of him, you know, just like Hogarth said. So, but he's bursting with ideas. He still has this boundless curiosity because it's like he's accepted this his fate. He understands it, but it's more at a spiritual level, you know, says Pink, like the spiritual acceptance. He's standing on that edge of a new chapter in his life.
Yeah.
He's feeling enthusiastic um, with, you know, like this boundless inspiration now to move forward with his quest, with this movement that he's created. He knows that if he passes, that it will only further his energy, the energy of his people, his belief, his politics. Yeah. So, but he is alone in the 5 of Pentacles. 5 of Pentacles, you know, can be like um, feeling
Out in the
alone,
cold.
feeling isolated, out in the cold.
Health
Um,
as well.
yeah, in his house. So, yeah, it just, I love him. I love his energy. You know, he's got kind of this hardness to him, and maybe some of his politics I don't agree with around, you know, personal freedom and liberty, but I love his spirit. And so also I have the magician in his future. So magician is you know, all the tools are on the table, right? It's all the cards are on the table. Create your future the way that you choose. And part of his fate has a bit of fate to it, right? It's got the infinity symbol over your head, but so that's what I
Yeah.
get. Yeah.
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 I think that's spot on. And he knows that death is not an impediment to his movement.
Thank
And
you.
it's so interesting because at the base of the deck, look here, We've got the swords here. So of course he is worried about that. But this is equally Putin that is worried about Navalny.
Yeah.
What Putin will try and do, if he's got any sense, he wants people to forget. He wants people to forget Navalny. Because he knows if you shoot someone down on an aeroplane or make them disappear in a gulag, in a way you give them, because then he'll become a martyr.
Yeah.
And as we know, martyrs can wield power from the grave. So Putin would like us to forget about Navalny, just for him not to be discussed, for him to kind of fade into the memory of the collective and never be spoken of again.
Right.
But if it emerges that Navalny has perished and his life has been ended at the hands of Putin, he will live on. And I think this way is part of his calculation, because that's what I feel as well.
Yeah, very much so. Very good. Good. All right, sir.
Can
Do
you believe
have
the
any?
time?
I know.
Oh, hold on.
What, honey?
You were going to say, do you have any?
Oh, I'm Oh. Are you there?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm there.
I think
I thought you were going to ask me, do you have any?
Oh,
Maybe.
I was lagging, I think, or you lagged, or somebody. Yeah. So, do you want to do another throw, or are you finished? Are we finished?
Well, I mean, I probably should get to bed.
That's right. It's later in the UK than here in the mountains.
Exactly. I'm what is it, 6 hours ahead or 7 hours ahead of mountain time? I think something like that. But I've had a fabulous time. And I've really enjoyed it. And I love the way you interpret the cards and your emotions and how deeply you feel about things. So I think you're a beautiful reader, and I can see why so many people like your channel. You really, true connection there. And I was thinking and feeling the same things you were about Navalny as well. This acceptance. But the way you articulated it was very beautiful. I like that.
No, thank you, Hogarth. And thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Appreciate you. I'm at jenbushman.com. If you'd like to fill your stocking with spiritual care, I'm offering 25% off. The gem show's coming up next month, and I need to relieve some inventory here. So if you go to my website, use thank you 25, you can get 25% off anything I have in the shop. Thank you 15 gives you 15% off my services. I've got classes coming up. And this Saturday is the Spirit Guide workshop. So check it out. And thank you, Hogarth, so much. I really appreciate it. All right.
No problem.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. All right. We'll see you
All
next
right.
time.
Bye for now. Bye-bye for now. Big love. See you. Thanks for joining in.